Welcome along, everyone, to this week's edition of the SFTC Academy livestream. Welcome to always my co-host Peter, and we're very excited about today's guest, aren't we, Peter?
Indeed, we are. One of the most exciting guests we've had since we've been doing this.
Yeah, it's our great pleasure.
Oh no, the bar's high now. Oh my gosh.
It's a great pleasure to welcome Charlie Isaacs to the live stream, who is make sure I get this right, the CTO for Customer Connection at Salesforce.com. So welcome, Charlie, coming to us late in your evening in the East Coast of the USA. So it's a great pleasure to have you on today.
The pleasure is mine, and I'm honored to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Cool. Now, what we're going to just get this out of the way first, because we're going to talk about some really exciting stuff today, but viewers on the screen now can see the Salesforce forward-looking statement, which you've probably all seen before at any number of events, live webinars, everything. So just please do not make any buying decisions based on anything we talk about today. And with that, let's jump into it.
Do you want me to read that for the first half an hour of the call? Do you want me to just read that forward-looking statement, or should we just move on? Go ahead. Just move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's early in the morning. I've already had a nap, so I don't need to.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's kick off. Charlie, what is it you do at Salesforce?
I'm asked that almost daily, almost hourly at Salesforce. What the heck do you do? No, actually, what I do, I have the best job at Salesforce. I'm very blessed in many ways in my life. I'm not just talking about my great family. I'm talking about the family I have at Salesforce. They're very supportive of me in my role. And my role is mostly about emerging technologies. So customers call Salesforce and rely on us to be a trusted advisor. And as a result of that, they want to see where they should move into the future. And emerging technology plays a key role in that. And predominantly for me, it's about Internet of Things, IoT. And people ask, Salesforce does IoT? And my title is CTO for Customer Connection. That's a long story. And we were talking about this before we got on the air, but Peter Coffey is my boss at Salesforce, who is very tolerant, very forgiving. And when I buy all the gadgets I need for IoT, he either looks the other way or he approves it and appreciates it. I'm not sure.
I'm intrigued.
Except for
what's the most expensive gadget you've ever bought?
Okay, well,
probably shouldn't tell us that, actually.
Okay, well, here I bought a piece of jewelry the other day, and I charged it to Salesforce. This is an Aura ring. This is an IoT device. Have you heard about this? This is a
I have one
device
myself.
It allows you. It measures your oxygen level, your heart rate activity, and other activities. So it can tell when you're exercising, and most importantly, it measures your sleep. So anyway, I recorded a video. So usually when I take an IoT device like this, I integrate it into Salesforce. I record a video, and at the end of this video, so I'm really moving all over the map here. Mark Benioff, on one of our calls the other day, we have all hands calls every week at Salesforce, which is a great way, and I highly recommend it. This is not private information. I highly recommend this if you're an executive, a C-level executive. I know you have admins mostly on the phone here, but it's really important at the C-level to keep in touch with all of your customers across your company. So our C-level executives are on talking to the entire company once a week, every week. And I just finished that. I just came off that call. Now, if I'm really like all over the map and really excited, it's because Mark Benioff was just amazing tonight. He was talking he was like the master class of excitement and enthusiasm about the ability to, and that's one of the purposes for this call today. I think we're going to talk about getting our customers back to work and work.com.
Yep.
So the engineering team launched this work.com offering in basically a month, right, on our platform. And he was so excited about the great success we're having with that. And also Salesforce Anywhere, he was excited about that. And our whole customer 360, he was like, amazing. I can't, and I don't want to disclose any confidential information. I probably already did, but our chief legal officer, Amy Weaver, would shoot me. Hopefully she won't be watching this, but she always reminds us that it's confidential information. So I'm not going to talk anymore about that. Okay, so we had this ring. So at the end of the video, and Mark, oh yeah, I was getting to this. Mark calls them, he says, well, we need to do more scrappy, he calls them scrappy videos. Okay, so I record a video after I do an integration. At the end of this video, I said, oh, thanks Salesforce for buying me this nice piece of jewelry, right? Because it was like $300 US. So, but anyway, so the NBA and a couple of other customers are using that to monitor their players. For those of you overseas, the NBA, National Basketball Association, and maybe the NFL, and they're going to use it. They're coming out with an algorithm too. Right now they do a readiness algorithm. So it could determine, and this is a forward-looking statement, it could possibly determine that you are suffering from symptoms of COVID, right? Well, it definitely, it takes your body temperature. So it'll know if you have a fever, right? So imagine if you could feed that into Salesforce Health Cloud, which is what we did, right, for the integration. And you could take that, you opt in, you OAuth in, which is, you do the security handshake with Salesforce. And you also OAuth into the Ring API, and you have a instant connection. So you're asking, I have another expense report story. So, and you can go back on Twitter and find this one. And I tweeted that I was buying one of our customers was into heavy machinery. So, and Peter was used to getting like these little $200, $300 purchases, right, that I would buy, or I go into a Toys R Us store and buy something, right? So I said, I hope my boss will be okay with me purchasing a forklift for my next demo, because I had we call them SICs, right? Salesforce Innovation Center briefing. We used to call them Executive Briefing Center briefings, right? EBCs. So now we call them SICs. But we had an SIC to do for that company that did heavy machinery. So I said, and so what I did was I went to Toys R Us and I bought I don't know if you have this cartoon. Have you ever heard of Paw Patrol?
Yes.
Paw Patrol. Oh, okay.
My grandkids watch it. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, my grandkids watch it too. But there was a Paw Patrol forklift. Well, it looked just like a forklift, and I put a beacon on it. I put a little sensor on it, and I tipped it over and pretended like, because their use case was, hey, we want to be able to, if someone mishandles the equipment, we want to know about that because we're in the rental business, right? Or if someone drives it off the edge of the loading dock, they want to know, they want to put a G-Shock indicator in it.
Okay.
Right? So what would that do for Salesforce? Well, guess what? We don't take the massive amounts of events from telemetry, which is all the little sensor data from a vehicle, but we can take the anomaly data, right? So, G-Shock was triggered, and then there's typically another cloud, it could be AWS, it could be GCP, it could be Azure. There's an intermediate cloud where that data gets fed, and then they set up a rule, and that rule calls our REST API and creates the case, right? So, and then you get the entire power of Salesforce. So in a matter of minutes, so the solutions engineers, they go in there and they trick out this demo for like the forklift company, right? And they build this really cool, awesome, we have the best demo teams, they're amazing. And they'll build this demo and the customer will say, well, that's great. Well, we want to see what it looks like connected to the device, right? So I'll either build a simulator or get a real sensor and do that, and then feed the data into, I usually go into Heroku.
Okay.
So I just spin up like a Node.js server on Heroku. More and more now you can go in because I'm rambling on endlessly here, aren't I? I'm not giving you a word in edgeway. Sorry.
Well, we're finding it interesting so far. So.
Okay. But the interesting thing is that you can push those now with Summer 20. You have many admins that are listening that hopefully have already experimented with Flow, right? That's our go-to for. That's my go-to. It's always been my go-to for clicking and not coding, right? Yep. If I have to, and I like to. The expression I use, and I know everybody cringes when especially the marketing people cringe when I say this, but Flow is my IoT hammer, and every IoT problem looks like a nail, because I can take anything, any event like that G-Shock indicator going off, someone dropped the forklift, or someone dropped the cargo container. I've got one of those in here somewhere too. Here. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to go off. Here's a cargo container, and this is actually hooked up. This is on the AT&T network. AT&T is the IoT. I don't know if this is coming through on the camera here.
Yep, you can see it.
So, oops, there. I just triggered a case in Service Cloud that went through the AT&T IoT Data Flow tool. They also have this thing called the Asset Management Operations Center, and you can configure an alert like that. You say, oh, G-Shock alert, and then you can call our REST API. Mm-hmm. And AT&T actually put to make it easy for our admins, they actually put a Salesforce button in there. So you could do the admin would have to, and this is not typically something an admin would do, but you'd have to build, the heavy lifting part is you have to build a connected app, right? So you have to build a connected app in order to exchange the token for OAuth. But in AT&T IoT Data Flow, you could build an OAuth connector right there in there. If you're familiar with a tool called Node-RED, which is a tool that IBM invented, and they open sourced it. It's called Node-RED. It's just like a node management system, and you say, oh, I want a Salesforce node. I want to click it onto the screen, and then when the cargo container monitor, this one has a solar panel on it too, pretty cool. And this does temperature, so you can monitor the temperature of your cargo container, so your lettuce or your bananas don't spoil, right? People send me this stuff all the time. Sometimes I don't even have to buy it, right? AT&T said, here, hook this up, right? So yeah, I could show you some other things too that are pretty cool. But that, you could just drag that node on there and say Salesforce. And then any event that comes from this device, filtered, you might set up a rule, say, okay, if it's greater than X, then, because we don't want a billion events being pushed into our org every day. That would be expensive. I mean, you could do it. Probably don't want to do it, right? That'd be very expensive. And then our support people might get upset with you too.
Well, you'd also just end up with a lot of noise in there. So
yeah.
It's
about making sense of that noise.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what stuff, how do you do that? Where do you capture that so you're not pushing every single thing and you're only pushing the things that you need to know about? Is that being captured in somewhere else before it comes through? Or?
Exactly. So AWS is a good example. You get what they call a Kinesis stream, right? And you can store it S3, however you want to store it. You have different data storage capabilities in every one of the clouds.
Yep.
AT&T has their own storage area. But then you can also we have more options now in Salesforce too, because we have big data objects, right? You could, if you wanted to push a lot of data in for some reason, and I don't recommend pushing, like millions of rows a day into, you could do it if you wanted to, or you could even push it into Heroku if you wanted, and then use Connect to further filter it down. But typically what I do is I only take the anomalies, and the first thing I do when I trigger a flow right? I used to call the REST API, but now with Summer 20, I can use a platform event. I don't know if the folks on the phone have looked at the new Summer 20, but one of the new input options is you can trigger from a platform event. So platform events make it really easy for PubSub, right? Publish, subscribe capabilities. So you can subscribe in a flow basically to an event coming in. And then if you take that event, what I do, the first node in that event, I say, okay, and all you have to do in a flow for IoT is because it's expecting the fields in the platform event, right? So you define the platform event in the field. So let's say this is going to have monitor temperature. Let's say our use case is bananas. We don't want the bananas to get rotten because it gets too hot. So there's going to be a field called temperature. And I already talked about shock. So maybe you have temperature, shock, and then a serial number. So 3. You could do a really cool POC with 3 fields. You build 3 input variables. You just build a regular variable. That would be a text field. Let's see, serial number would be text, and G-shock would probably be numeric. So there's 2 numeric fields and a text field. And then you just set those to be input fields, and your flow can read the data coming in from the outside world. It's really easy and cool. People think, they get blown away that I could build like a whole end-to-end thing in like an hour, right? But it's the power of the platform, right?
And the platform's taking care of the scale, right? You only have to think about your flow in the context of one platform event coming through and how you want to handle that.
Exactly. It makes it so easy. As long as you, again, the scale, there are limits on platform events. I think if you Google, I don't know what the current limit is. I think it's something like 6 million events per day, which you would never want to do. Who the heck? I had a customer that said, "Oh, we need to scale to 6 million events per day." Okay, what are you gonna do with those events? Because these are anomaly events. Are you gonna open up 6 million cases a day? How many contact center people are you gonna hire?
You could do that.
Right. How many but if you do the math, how many cases can your contact center team or your tech support team manage? Anyway, it's supposed to be about anomaly events, right? But other people want to do, we compromised on that.
That point's a very good point. I mean, it's things we've talked about before about, you can do anything inside Salesforce or on Salesforce on the platform. It's what you should do. So, focusing on what the anomalies are and even then you could probably even cycle down or filter down even further on those type of things as well.
Exactly.
You've got all that data. You've got so much stuff that you can play with. Ultimately, how you play with it is the right way.
Exactly. And then once you get it into, let me go one more level with that, because I use the analogy of, and this is really, really dates because I don't know if we use these anymore in schools, but remember in an old microscope, you had a coarse adjustment knob and a fine adjustment knob where you tune I don't know if you called them that down under. Well, there's 2 knobs, right? Oh, maybe they don't have these anymore. When I was in
just
school,
don't want to admit how old I am.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so let's say there's look at it as a filter then, right? Like a funnel.
Yep.
So you funnel it down on AWS, right? And you whittle down to the anomalies. But then then there's another filter in Salesforce, because once you get it into the flow, okay, the first thing I do, I mentioned I store it in like a custom object, and I call it, this would be called cargo container logs, right? __C. That would be my custom object that I created for this. And then what's the next thing I'm going to do? I'm going to check for temperature, right? So when temperature, I just drag onto the flow a decision node, right? Is temperature greater than X? So there's my fine adjustment on the anomaly, right? So I can even further whittle that down. I can do, if temperature is that and the G-shock went off, then you really got a bad problem. Do something else, right? So you can do some really cool things when you do a pre-filter and then a post-filter.
Sort of makes you wonder how those things would have been done before you could connect all these things together. It's the connected life. Now I'm rambling, so there you go. One of the things, the reason we reached out in the first place was the tweet that you sent the other week about Tableau and return to work, and
Oh, yeah.
which got our attention on how that's all working. So, tell us a bit more about that. What's the return to work solutions? There's a few things that have come out from Salesforce on that front. What's this one in particular about?
Okay, well, that's a really cool story. Okay, so I was really suffering when we first went into quarantine. By the way, I was on the way to Sydney when I got, I was supposed to, why was I going there? I was going for Sydney World Tour, I think, right? Wasn't that in March? Was that early March?
Yep,
okay.
Mid-March.
Okay. So I was seriously on the plane from DC to LA. I was going to connect in LA and go to Sydney. When I got the email from the all hands email from Mark Benioff saying, stop what you're doing, we're shutting down, shelter in place. So, and I'd just been in India before that too. Mm-hmm. So I stopped in LA, and I was supposed to connect into Sydney, and I just stopped in LA. And I had one more event, since I was in LA, I had another couple of events I had to attend and customer visits in LA anyway. That came up at the last minute. So I just stayed there and basically quarantined in place for a while. And then I didn't get on the airplane for another 10 days, I think. I quarantined to make sure I was safe to go on the airplane. And then I flew home. But why was I talking about this? Oh, yeah. So from the beginning, I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do? You know, all these poor people are going to be shut in their homes. How can I leverage Salesforce to do good, right? Because I'm an older dude, right? And I'm not supposed to go out, and I can't, even though I wasn't supposed to, I went out and helped some neighbors, you know, do some things, which I shouldn't have. But I'm in the risk area that should stay home and not do anything, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, what can I do at home? I've got this amazing opportunity to leverage our amazing platform, and guess what? I don't have to travel anymore. So I'm like 140% more productive. I loved visiting our Ohana, and that was like my favorite thing to do. But I lost a lot of productivity waiting for planes, sitting on the airplane, not being connected. Now I'm at home and okay, what can I do? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a back to work solution. So I'm sitting here and I'm working with the chief medical officer, Dr. Ashwini Zinaz, and we're brainstorming together, right? Okay, what can we do? Well, we have to do a survey tool, right? So we built this. So she and I and a couple other people, there's another guy, Joe Andolina, who's on the demo team. And he's not going to Salesforce tour, right, to go give demos. He's locked at home. So what the heck he's going to do? He's an amazing resource. So I stole him. And so he and I were working together. He's a great hardware guy. So we started brainstorming about what can we do to get our employees and our customers back to work. And so we were doing this kind of in a vacuum. We didn't know that there was a whole nother group, like starting in March, also building a work.com solution. Mm-hmm. So we were prototyping this stuff. We were posting it up on Chatter, and but we were focusing on IoT, because I'm thinking, okay, the best way to do this is to do, okay, so here's a FLIR device. This is a thermal image scanning capability, right? So you could take someone's temperature by looking at their eyeballs or their forehead, right? Okay. Yeah. So this, we did an integration with this, and he's got a whole video. Joe did the back end, I did the Salesforce side, and we did an integration into Cogniz. This is another thermal temperature scanner, and our real estate people said, "Hey, we're experimenting with this in the Salesforce Tower. We might be using it. Can we integrate that?" Sure. So we integrated that, right? So we just started getting flooded with all of these devices. Here, what else we got? This is a B-Way device, which is for proximity. It's a proximity sensor, a proximity beacon, right? So I can tell if I'm too close to Peter. Peter and I are in contact, and then the next hour I'm with Dan, right? So that'll that'll do the automated
Tracking
record.
of
Tracking. Right. Why am I not? I've been talking about this for 6 months now. Why can't I talk about it? Okay. Anyway, so you get the idea. So we had like 5 or 6 vendors that were interested in working with us on that. So, but in the meantime, so like Joe and I and a few other people were working on all these solutions, and then we find out we're posting our videos on Chat, and someone from the work.com group said, "Hey, guess what? We're building an official work.com solution on the platform," and then we started working with them together on that. Mm-hmm. But what's really cool is we had so those of you on the call that don't know about it, the first thing you do is you schedule yourself, right? So guess what we used? We used Field Service Lightning Scheduler. So everybody says, "Oh wow, we got this thing done in a month." We cheated. We leveraged a lot of existing functionality. Okay, but
why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? But it was so amazing that they were able to put this all together seamlessly on a single platform, right? So scheduling, I used regular scheduling in Salesforce. I didn't use a Field Service Lightning scheduling in my prototype. But what I did do that they liked was I was able to feed in temperature data, right, automatically for the attestation part. So I built a hokey survey tool. They used Salesforce built-in surveys. We cheated again there, right? That was already built into the platform. But now you could take this FLIR and you can say, "Hey, I didn't have a temperature. I don't have a temperature right now, so let me in the door," basically, right? Or even better, this use case that I didn't really talk about, the reason I bought this $300 Aura ring was I don't even have to fill out a survey now, right? I have a readiness score that proves that I didn't have a fever all last night. My heart rate looks perfect, and there's no anomaly. So I don't even have to fill out and the video that I built that shows this use case, you agree to let your private information go into Health Cloud, right? You have to say yes to that question, but there are no other questions. You don't have to fill out anything. So reducing the friction, right? So the work.com team really liked that we were building this stuff to reduce the friction for their customers too. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
I like the fact that it's reducing friction, but it's also making it very, very timely. We're seeing the impact of people doing things manually and all that type of stuff, or giving their information over manually, and what that can actually, how that can impact things like contact tracing and all that type of stuff. So the more that's automated and it just happens, the better it's going to be, and the faster we can get on top of on the virus and all that type of stuff as well. That's really cool.
Right. Yeah, and it's not meant to be a replacement. Okay, so we have like 35 states. I don't know what the number is now. 36 states in the United States that are using our manual contact tracing on work.com, and it's not meant to replace that, right? You're not going to ever take one of these beacons and just push the data in. Well, first of all, it freaks people out because, oh, you're tracking me everywhere I go. Yep. Well, you're tracking them within a building. You're not tracking them outside. Like there's some apps in the United States. I think they're probably experimenting in where you are too, with apps like Google and Apple have a partnership on that. Yep. There's something from MIT called SafePass, right? That where they have a way of encrypting the data and only taking it off your phone if absolutely necessary. But anyway, what I was getting to with this, you do manual contact tracing, and then there's always an interviewer, right? So the interviewer that does the manual contact tracing, this would be a good way for them to have the person's memory jogged, right? Oh, I see you were with Peter. Was there anybody else that you were with that day, right? Because according to the automated contact tracer, it showed you were with Peter and Dan. Do you remember being close to anybody else? And so that's very helpful. Something
that we need to. I think the other thing I like about this is how fast you were able to bolt something together. With COVID-19, the impact that it's had to business, to communities, to people worldwide, to be able to put something like this together that's actually and it's not it's smoke and mirrors demo. It works.
Yes.
Is amazing, really. Which we wouldn't have been able to do